Assalamualaikum everyone, welcome back to my channel Automation by Sibga. In today's lecture number 3, we are going to explore one of the most important concepts in automation, which are triggers in n8n. So if you have ever wondered how an automation actually starts, then this lecture is exactly for you. So without wasting any time, let's dive through it. So basically you should know about first what's our trigger. So a trigger is a starting point of any workflow in n8n. It basically tells you automation when to run and what event should start it. So think of it like a switch. Once something happens, your workflow turns on automatically. So triggers are basically important because without triggers, your workflow won't know when to execute. So trigger helps you to automate tasks in real time, reduces manual work, and respond instantly to events. In simple words, if there is no trigger, it means there is no automation. So type of triggers in n8n are, let me show you through the n8n. So by clicking here at a first step, you can see all the triggers which are present here. The first trigger's name is trigger manually, the second one is on app event, the third one is on a schedule, next is on a webhook call, then a form submission, then when executed by another workflow, on chat messages, and on other ways. So let me tell you first about the manual trigger. Actually, the manual trigger is the simplest trigger in n8n. It allows you to start a workflow manually by clicking on the button. If you use manual trigger, this trigger basically doesn't work automatically. To start it, it acts like a switch button. To start this workflow, you need to click on it first, and then your workflow will be started and will be executed automatically. So it allows you to start a workflow manually by clicking a button. And the best for is testing workflows, debugging, learning n8n as a beginner. But remember, the main thing about the manual trigger is that it doesn't run automatically. If we talk about the next trigger, which is on an app event, actually this is one of those triggers which come from a specific app like Gmail, Slack, Google Sheets, Shopify. For example, if new email is received, then it will start the workflow. If new order is placed, then this trigger will start the workflow or process the data. So this trigger helps to connect n8n with the real world business tools. So you can use this trigger basically for any type of business, email, order placement, and other things. Let's talk about the third trigger, which is on schedule. You just need to use this trigger because it acts and works on a specific time. Like example, every day at 9 a.m., every Monday, or after every 5 minutes. Like sending daily reports, posting scheduled document contents, or running regular tasks automatically. And if we study about the next trigger, which is on a webhook call, then basically this one is the most powerful trigger in n8n because a webhook listens for data from external apps. You use it for the external sources. So basically, when someone fills a form, when payment is received, when data is sent from another app, as soon as data is received, the workflow starts instantly. The first one is a manual trigger. You always need to click on it to start the workflow, but the other triggers are being started automatically. You don't need to trigger them by yourself. This one will perform the workflow and automation exactly on a time you have edited or described. And this is for the app events like Gmail, Slack, Telegram, Instagram, and others. And this is the webhook trigger from where any kind of data is received, then this is going to be started. So let's talk about another trigger, which is on a form submission. This one. So basically, a form submission is when a web form is filled out in n8n. In this trigger, you create your own form. If you want some data from a source or other person, you will create your own form through this trigger. So when a form is filled out in n8n, this trigger fires the workflow automatically and passes all the form responses as an input data to the nodes in the flow. It lets you automate processes based on user submission, like saving data, sending notifications, or triggering other actions. So basically, this is also very helpful in this. Now let's turn to the next point, which is when executed by another workflow. This trigger. So basically, this trigger is runs the current workflow when it is called by the execute workflow node from a different workflow. It makes the flow act like a reusable functions or subroute that can be invoked from another automation, sharing inputs and outputs between them. And if you could talk about this on chat message, this is a very good trigger. This trigger activates the workflow whenever a user sends a chat, typically used an AI nodes like chatbots or other language model. So this one is also very helpful for you. And what if to think about the other ways? These are the miscellaneous triggers that start the workflow in special situations such as workflow errors, file changes, or other system events. They provide the flexibility to react to exceptions or environmental changes. Example, rerunning a process when a file is updated or when an error occurs. So basically, these are all the triggers you can use in your workflow, but mostly usable triggers are like trigger manually, on an app event, on a schedule, a webhook one, or on a form submission. These are the mostly usable triggers, and one more is on a chat message. So these are all the triggers, and hope so you get it. Now we are turning into the action nodes. So basically, n8n consists of like triggers and nodes, other nodes. The triggers are the one which will start your workflow, and the others are which will perform your action. So triggers and action nodes will combine together and form a workflow which will execute automatically. So let's turn by using the trigger manual option. Now let's turn into the action nodes. So these are all the action nodes, which are AI, actions in an app, data transformations, flow, core, human review, and add other trigger. If you want any other trigger to add in your workflow, you can also add it from this point. So basically, if you talk about the AI action nodes, it means like building autonomous agent, summarize, or search documents. It is just like an AI agent like Google, Gemini, Cloudy, DeepSeeker, and other AI agents. You have listened about it. AI agent is a autonomous agent, summarizes or search documents, etc. This node lets you create an AI-driven agent that can perform tasks like summarizing text, searching through the documents, or making intelligent decisions within your workflow. This is the basically function of an AI action node. So if we talk about actions in app, so do something in app or service like Google Sheets, Telegrams, or Notions, then this node triggers an action in an external application or services, like updating a Google Sheet, sending a message via Telegram, or creating a page in Notion. So this one is also very helpful. You can use action in an app by clicking here. Then you can use any kind of app if you want. If you want Instagram, you can search here Instagram. There are different Instagram trigger tool or Instagram tool. You can use any one if you want. So let's move on to the third one, which is the data transformation. It manipulates, filter, or convert the data, which is basically this nodes control the logics of your workflow. Either it's true or either it's false. It can branch execution based on conditions, merge paths, or create a loops to repeat the steps. And let's talk about the fourth one, which is flow. So this one is also a branch, merge, or loop, the flow, etc. This node also controls out like the request and the logic of your workflows. It can branch execution based upon the conditions, merge paths, or create loop to repeat the steps. This one will filter out and then convert the data, and this one will let you know which one is false or which one is true, and then merge them. And if you talk about the fifth one, which is core, this runs the codes making HTTP requests, set webhook, etc. And the core node execute custom core HTTP requests to APIs or set up the webhook for external event handling. And if we talk about the human reviews, then it's very helpful because requests approval via services like Slack and Telegram before making the tool calls. This node insert a manual approval step, sending a request to a human viewer through platforms like Slack or Telegram before proceeding. So if you want to add another trigger in your workflow, then the trigger starts your workflow, and workflow can have the multiple triggers. Basically, the first trigger is a basic need of your workflow because it's going to help you to start out your workflow, and without a trigger, your workflow will never execute. And a manual trigger is the one of the different trigger because you always need to click on it to get your workflow started. But this casual trigger, webhook trigger are not like a manual trigger because they can execute as they will get data from external sources. As they get data from external sources, they will going to execute. But in manual trigger, you always need to click on a switch to get it turned on. So if you want to add another trigger, you can add if your workflow need or it's a basic need of your workflow. So this option lets you add initial trigger that initiate the workflow allowing multiple entry points or condition to start the process. So before ending, here are some quick tips I'm going to share with you. So always choose the right trigger for your use case. Use manual trigger for your testing workflow, and use manual trigger for the testing and other triggers for the execution. I prefer webhooks for real and the time automations, and use schedule for repetitive tasks which are used in all the tests. So I'm going to let you know like schedule trigger is basically the one of the trigger that used on a specific time, so it would help you. And use schedule for this task. And that's it for today's lectures on n8n trigger. If you found this video helpful, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe to Automation by Sibga. And in the next lecture, we will dive deeper into the actions and nodes and how to build a complete workflow step by step. Allah Hafiz, and see you in the next video.